This is where we are. We are in Unit 5, Descriptive Data Analysis Tools. In this unit, first of all, we are going to remind ourselves what descriptive data analysis is. We are also going to look at descriptive data analysis tools. We are also going to look at when each descriptive data analysis tool is used and how to use each tool, and finally, how to interpret the results of each tool. I don't know whether members still remember what I've said. I am seeing your concern that you don't have these notes yet. I am going to send them to you, but let me give you a brief introduction. I have said that we are going to look at, to remind ourselves what descriptive data analysis is. We are going to look at the descriptive analysis tools we have. Then we are going to look at when each tool is used. We are also going to look at how do we use each tool to analyze the data. And finally, we are going to look at how to interpret results from each tool. So those are 5 things you are supposed to achieve in this unit. If you don't achieve them, then you have not understood this. I said what is descriptive data analysis? We all know what it is. But as I started, you see in this sentence, I said, as we have already seen in our introduction to this module, statistics provides us with the tools of data analysis. We noted that data analysis is done at 2 levels, at a descriptive and inferential level, following the 2 branches of applied statistics. In each case, either descriptive or inferential, statistics provide us with specific tools to analyze data. Therefore, before you begin your data analysis, you must ask these key questions and you look for their answer basing on the data you have. Question 1, what statistical tools are available for descriptive data analysis? When should a researcher use each descriptive analysis tool? How should the researcher use each tool? How can the results from each descriptive tool be interpreted? The same questions can be asked for inferential data analysis. But here, we are going to concentrate on descriptive data analysis tools and try to answer those 4 questions. We reminded you that descriptive data analysis deals with collection, processing, analysis, interpretation of results for explaining a specific sample without making generalizations or without drawing conclusions to the whole population. There are several descriptive data analysis tools. We have grouped them into 4 here. One group is called frequencies, analysis of frequencies. Under frequencies, we have what we call frequency counts, percentage distributions, and cumulative frequencies. 3 ways of analyzing frequencies. Somebody wants to say something? Let me repeat. I have said descriptive analysis tools. We have grouped them into 4 categories: frequencies, measures of central tendencies, measures of dispersion, and skewness. Remember, these categories are not the tools, they are just the grouping. So under, for example, frequencies, the tool, the statistical tool we use to analyze data, we have frequency counts, we have percentages, we have cumulative frequencies. So when they ask you, for example, to give some descriptive tools, don't tell us frequencies, measures of central tendencies, measures of dispersion. Those are not tools. They are just the groupings. The actual tools are the frequency counts, the percentages, the cumulative frequencies, and under measures of central tendencies or location, the tools we have there are means or average, median, and mode. And under measures of dispersion, we have range, variance, and standard deviation. Then we have the skewness. We shall look at each of these and answer the questions. Now, we have answered the question, what descriptive tools are available? We have answered that question. The next question to answer is, when do we use each tool? Remember, I told you during the unit of variables and data analysis, the question, when do we use that tool, refers to the type of data should we have in order to use that tool. So when I say, when do we use that tool, the answer I want you should be, I want you to give should be about the type of data we should have for us to use that tool. For example, if I ask you, when do we use frequency counts? When do we use frequency counts to analyze data? That should be the first question or the first answer in your mind before you use frequency counts. The answer is here in the first sentence. The first sentence said, frequency counts are the analysis tools suitable to analyze data which is categorical in nature. Remember, we looked at categorical data and we saw that nominal data has a characteristic of categorical and ordinal data. So when we say this one means whether your data is ordinal or nominal, it can be analyzed using frequency counts because that data is categorical in nature. We have answered that question for frequency counts. When do we use frequency counts? We use frequency counts when the data we want to analyze is categorical in nature. Now we go to the next question of how do we use frequency counts? Now, the question of how do we use frequency counts refers to the how do we compute, how do we calculate, how do we generate the frequency counts. Let's continue. We had said here that in most cases, if data is nominal, frequency counts are the only viable descriptive tool of analysis. We have said that. In addition to frequency counts, we can also analyze data by computing relative frequencies or percentages. This one is telling you that we also use percentages when the data we have is categorical, and cumulative frequencies. We also use cumulative frequencies when the data we have is categorical. But there is a difference under cumulative frequencies. When the data is categorical but ordinal, that is when we can use cumulative frequencies. You will see it when we reach it. Let's go to percentages. Percentages are also called relative frequencies. We get them from frequency counts. That means the answers for the questions are the same for frequency counts and for percentages. Example, if we are considering the distribution of students in this class according to job position, you did not give me your data because I expected that you have entered that data at your side. But we have illustrated, we have given an illustration of how the frequency, the percentages are calculated. If here I have the number of managers, the number of administrators, the number of common staff, and those who are not employed, and assuming I have a total of 11, let's get any assumed number. Let me say that the managers are 3, the administrators are 4, the common staff are 5, and the not employed are 0. What is the total there? It is 12, eh? Let me say 4 here.
Reduce it.
So the total now is 11. If I want to calculate the percentage here, I will put 3 here. Then over 11 times 100, the answer will be, use your calculator if you have it. If you can use it, I know some of you are using currently your phone, so you cannot use the phone again to calculate. Get 3, divide by 11, multiply by 100. What do you get?
27%.
27 point. You round off 2 decimal points.
27.27.
27.27%. So that is how we generate the percentages. Assuming here, if it is 4, then you will have 4 out of 11 times 100. What do you get?
36.36.
36.36. And then this will be the same. Eh? It will be 36.36 because it is also 4. This will be 0 0.0. And finally, when you add 36 point and you add this, it should give you 100. Add on your calculator and see that you get the overall total down here as 100. So it is 36.36 plus 36.36 plus 27.27. You get 99.99, which is approximately 100 when you round it off. It is approximately 100%. So that is how we generate the percentages. Let's move on. Now, that activity we have done answers the question, how do we compute percentages? How do we get the frequency counts? And how do we get the percentages? We get frequency counts by counting the number of times each category appears. We get percentages by dividing the absolute frequency of each category with the total number of respondents and multiplying by 100. So that is how to get that. And then the last question would be, how do we interpret the results? So look at this paragraph here. This is where we said, in interpreting relative frequencies, we can observe that I left this space just to look at the current situation. When you are interpreting frequency counts, usually you follow. You can point out the category with the highest frequency. If you also want, you can point out the category with the lowest frequency. For example, here, as you see, the administrators and common staff are more. They are equal. But if I look at the managers and the administrators, they make a percentage of 63. So let us look at a sample of this interpretation. We can observe that the administrator category, let's say the administrator category, because these are, we take them to be the majority. The administrator category. The administrator category, whose percentage, you put it in brackets, is 36.36%, contributed, the administrator category with 36.36% contributed the highest percentage. If you want, in our case, you can also add and the common staff category. Contributed the highest percentage, which is almost, we can say, if you want, you can say 36%, followed by, here, since they are equal, you will mention them at once. followed by the common staff category. Common staff category. With a percentage also of 36.6. 36%. I am now rounding off to the nearest whole number, if you want, implying that the class of statistical methods is dominated by, let me say, high ranking job officers. Why? Because as I told you, when you look at these results here, you will find that the manager and administrator category are contributing more than 60% of the total. While the common staff and the not employed, which are the lower categories, they contribute only 36.6. So I can look at my data and see what picture comes out to you. And the interpretation will differ. The way you see may not be the way your friend is seeing. For example, me, I'm seeing that this class is dominated by high-ranking job officers. For you, you may not be seeing this. Even though we are seeing differently, all our interpretations may be correct. All our interpretations may be correct. So I don't expect that your interpretation, even if I gave you the same data set to analyze using frequency counts, the interpretation you are going to make will be similar to your friend, unless you are identical twins. But even identical twins have different brains. The way they interpret things differ. So their likes and preferences are different. So members, interpretation means making sense of the data you have, getting the meaning out of the results you have got. And this one will depend on your reasoning as a person. It is affected completely by you as a person. First of all, your interest. You can interpret something correctly, but according to your interest. If you're a human resource officer, you will interpret it differently from a person who is not a human resource officer. For example, me, I'm an economist. I may look at this data and I say that, oh, since the not employed are zero, it means there is a high employment rate in this sample. Just I'm looking at it. The zero, which you can ignore, is the one I'm using to interpret, because that is my interest as a person. I'm an economist. I'm interested in the employment rates. So I can also say that, hey, if I am a business person, since all students are employed in this class, it means that they can afford to pay fees. So the class will be a good class. They can even afford to buy a soda for their lecturer. Ha ha ha. But it depends on the meaning you can derive from the data you have. The meaning cannot be exhausted. You cannot exhaust the meaning from the data you have. So just feel free as a person to look at the data you have and generate the meaning according to you as a person. Stand bold, stand firm, and know what you want. If you are a health medical related person, your interpretation differ. The way you see things will be medical. Likewise, a politician will see things in a political way. An economist will see things in an economic way. A social scientist or a public administrator will see them in that way. A mother will see them in that way. A father like that. So feel free. When you interpret the results and we see them, we can tell who you are. And it is not wrong for people to interpret who you are. Don't fear yourself to interpret the results. I always find many students fearing to interpret their data. After data collection, they always run up and down for people to interpret. These younger boys we have trained. Hey, please help me analyze and interpret for me. No, please. Okay, if you don't have time for data entry, you can give a person to help you. But when it comes to interpreting those results, do it yourself. Thank you. Unless there is any question, I want to stop here for today and give you a task to answer all the questions I have put here as far as all other descriptive tools are concerned. I have dealt with only frequencies, frequency counts, and percentages. You are going to deal with the cumulative frequencies. You deal with mean, median, mode, range, variance, standard deviation. You answer those questions. By drawing a table, we are going to draw a table where you will answer each question. I think I will share a sample of such a table in the WhatsApp group for you. The questions you are answering are 4. 1, in the first column, you will put the tool you are talking about. Let me say the tool you are talking about is cumulative frequencies. Then in the next column, you put the when do we use it? When do we use it? Remember the question, when do we use it? I told you it concerns only the type of data you should have. What type of data should you have, for example, to use cumulative frequencies? Then in the next column, you put the question, how do we compute it? Or how do we use it? And that question concerns the calculation or the computation. How do we compute, for example, cumulative frequencies? In most cases in this column, if there is a formula, it is the one you give. Remember, for frequency counts, we don't have a formula. We simply said we get frequency counts by counting the number of times each category appears. For percentages, we have showed you something like a formula. For cumulative, you will find it out and other tools. For mean, for example, there is a formula. For variance, there is a formula, and so on. Then the last column will be how to interpret the results. How do we interpret? For example, I have told you that in interpreting frequency counts, we can point out the category with the highest frequency and probably maybe the category with the lowest frequency, and then give the implications. What do those results imply? And these implications will depend according to the way you see the things. You are using those results to generate meaning out of that data. What do those results mean according to you? Don't think there is any other technical way. No, it is according to you. What do they suggest? What do those results imply? you will have finished all the tools, descriptive tools. When we meet, we shall just be going to another unit. Thank you very much for attending, unless there is any question or any other comment. If you have, just put up your hand and we allow you to talk. Somebody has said you don't send us the notes. Okay, don't forget to send us the notes. I'll not forget. I will send you. I'm going to send you the notes on the WhatsApp platform. So finally, I'm going to make one request, members. I should have the class coordinators. The class coordinators, please compile a list of all your members who have attended, who have ever attended this class. You will submit them to me. Compile the list, class coordinators. Thank you. Have a wonderful time. I'll try to see if the recording of today is good. If it is good, I will send it to you as well. At least for all the previous classes, we have the recordings. You can repeat them over and over, but just know that it takes much of your personal effort to understand these things. Even when the teacher is very good at explanation, if you don't put in personal effort, you may quickly forget what he has said. Thank you. Have a wonderful time.